Next up, Nicole Hannah-Jones's objection to Charlie's statement that, quote, Black America is poorer, more murderous, and more dangerous than when Black people were living under Jim Crow. He did not mutter this quietly, drunk in some dark bar. He didn't drink. He said it in a room full of people on a show called Jubilee, where one conservative debates 25 liberal college students out in the open. He was not trying to hide his point. He wanted people to hear it. Charlie had a great back and forth with a young Black woman about why he felt this way, which Jones completely ignores.
Racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been
that
in the last
affected
80 years.
The generational psyche of an entire group of people?
No, I'm sure it did. I'm not discounting that. I'm just trying to understand, why is it the more social welfare we've done? So we've spent $20 trillion on uplifting Black communities, $20 trillion, and Black Americans are poor. We've done everything that's been asked.
You haven't done everything that's been asked, though.
Great society,
because what is being
stamps,
asked?
subsidized housing, Medicaid, public schooling, subsidized college. We're talking about $20 trillion that has been spent on the Great Society. And yet Black America is poorer, more murderous, more dangerous. So there's an explanation. I'm asking you to explain.
But we are not asking for handouts. We are asking for equity.
Hold on,
and
what
part
is
of
that?
equity
what does equity mean?
is
you mean taking from other people?
Excuse me, it means sharing, which is something that you guys seem to have a very hard time doing.
Sharing.
How brave of that, first of all, was Charlie? How brave of that was that for him to do? I mean, incredible. Now, what if Dominic's daughter actually did see that exchange? Well, she might actually learn something about respectful debate and U.S. history. Because this was not a Charlie Kirk idea. This is a mainstream conservative take on the damage done to the Black community by Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society social engineering programs. Black intellectuals from Thomas Sowell to Shelby Steele to once Harvard and now Brown economist Glenn Loury have made this same point for decades. But they don't teach Thomas Sowell in schools because he does not buy the oppression narratives of the New York Times. Let's start with the piece of Charlie's statement suggesting Blacks were hurt economically by the Great Society programs. Jason Riley, who happens to be Black, author of the must-read book, Please Stop Helping Us, in which he argues government interventions have harmed Black Americans, set the scene in the Wall Street Journal in 2021. Quote, between 1940 and 1960, the percentage of Black families living in poverty declined by 40 points as Blacks increased their years of education and migrated from poorer rural areas to more prosperous urban ones in the South and the North. Then came the Great Society programs, which kicked off decades in which, Riley explains, Blacks saw, quote, slower progress or outright retrogression. Black labor force participation fell, Black unemployment rates rose, and the Black nuclear family disintegrated. In 1960, fewer than 25% of Black children were being raised by a single mother. Within 4 decades, it was more than half. By 2023, the Heritage Foundation reports that only 31% of Black children were born to a 2-parent family, less than 1/3. Why? Because LBJ's Aid to Families with Dependent Children program conditioned financial assistance on a father's absence from the home. Absolute insanity. Here's Senator Tim Scott talking about it at a presidential debate a couple years ago.
So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge, though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the Black father out of the household to get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family.
As for Charlie's assertion that Blacks have become more murderous and dangerous since Jim Crow or the 1960s, that's true too. And it's related to the absence of fathers. From the 1960s forward, crime by Black Americans escalated dramatically. As Riley explains in the journal, quote, antisocial behavior is closely associated with family breakdown. So it's no surprise that more fatherless homes led to higher violent crime rates, pointing out that Black male homicide rates had been falling in the 1940s and 1950s, but starting in the 1960s, this trend began to reverse itself and continued to worsen for the next 3 decades. These are facts, not racist hate. Nikole Hannah-Jones then attacks Charlie for saying nowadays, quote, prowling blacks go around for fun to target white people. Not phrased in the most PC way, I'll grant you, but Charlie was actually quite brave in saying what we have all seen on our X feeds but are generally too polite to say. He was seeing videos like this one, showing a mob of black people beating the hell out of a white victim. These videos are commonplace online, but they don't make the news virtually ever. As scholar and author Heather McDonald put it in City Journal in 2023, quote, well-meaning Americans turn their eyes away from black crime in deference to racial etiquette. Such etiquette, however understandable, is costing lives. It will continue to do so until the next administration tells the truth about law enforcement and crime. Only then will the police be able to protect public safety without the false stigma of racism. Charlie's specific commentary here was part of his general reaction to a video that went viral a while back of young black men appearing to harass a crying, white, 6 months pregnant woman over her rented city bike in New York, which they claimed was theirs, but she produced a receipt. The media was quick to label the woman a racist for not giving up the bike and for having the nerve to cry during the exchange. We covered the story on this show and read an excerpt from The Griot in which they quoted one black woman saying, "You put a white woman in a situation and a Karen will come out." Where was Nikole Hannah-Jones calling out that racism? The reaction against this particular white woman on the city bike was so hasty and unfair, even race-hustling lawyer Benjamin Crump had to delete a tweet piling on her once it was proven she was in the right. Charlie, in discussing the incident, was not commenting on all black people, but about those who seem to take joy in harassing or hurting others, especially whites. It's a troubling dynamic that should be discussed and addressed. But at present, we cannot even get the media to report on the race of a criminal suspect if he happens to be black. In fact, in New York City, where that city bike incident happened, there was another crime right around this same time in which 3 teens on city bikes seriously assaulted 2 white women for fun, out of nowhere. In the initial reporting of the incident, while the perpetrators were still at large and cops were asking for the public's help in finding them, the media would only call them teenagers. No description at all. It took me half an hour to find a single follow-up report in which one of the victims told a reporter that at least 2 of the teenagers were black. The third she could not remember. Jones attacks other of Charlie's commentary, suggesting it was racist of him to say this.
Black Americans are in prison far greater than the percentage of the population. So Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do.
So why do you think black people commit more crimes?
Well, first of all,
Kirk?
let me ask you a question as my answer.
Go on.
What percentage of blacks have a father around when they're raised?
I'm not sure.
20%.
So that's why you
80%
think
of blacks do not have a stable father around. It is the most predictable way to end up in prison, end up as a murderer or a criminal.
And why
it's
do
not
you
a
think that's
racism
a problem?
It's not a white supremacy problem. It's a fact that black fathers impregnate women and they don't stay around with the women
And
that they have
why,
impregnated.
Charlie Kirk, do you think that happens more in the black community compared to others?
It's threefold. Number one, we subsidize single motherhood. Number two, it's culture. It's accepted in the black community, and it shouldn't be.
So it's culture. Okay.
Don't take my
I
word
see.
for it. Read Thomas Sowell's own book on how black culture allows single motherhood to continue into a nanny state type practice.
So we've covered the issue of fatherlessness and what it does to black families. As for whether blacks commit more crime than whites, that is also true on a per capita basis. Back to Heather McDonald, a Manhattan Institute fellow and graduate of Yale, Cambridge, and Stanford Law, who reports that, quote, the national rate of homicides committed by blacks is 8 times that of whites and Hispanics combined. If you take Hispanics out of the equation, she writes, the black-white homicide differential is about 11 to 1. Black males, she goes on, between the ages of 14 and 17, commit homicide at 10 times the rate of white and Hispanic teens combined. In New York City, McDonald reports blacks are 23% of the population, but commit 75% of all shootings, 70% of all robberies, 66% of all violent crime. Whites are 33% of the city's population, but commit less than 2% of all shootings, 4% of robberies, and 5% of violent crime. Chicago, Heather remarked when she was promoting her book, The War on Cops, is the same. Blacks and whites each make up just under 1/3 of the city's population. Blacks commit 80% of all homicides there and 80% of all shootings. Whites commit about 1% of Chicago's shootings and homicides. Here, again, Charlie was right. And it was courageous of him to offer these facts unapologetically and very publicly. Covering them up is exactly what allowed the Black Lives Matter lies about racist cops hunting unarmed black men to fester, which led directly to the loss of more black lives as police pulled back and minority communities suffered. Nicole Hannah-Jones and the Times should be ashamed of themselves for letting her cast this assertion as racist without telling their audience it's true. Before we leave this subject, let's do what Nicole Hannah-Jones would never do. Look at how Charlie actually engaged with Black Americans. He had plenty of interactions with them. He was radically honest in a way too few ever are, because he felt that the truth was what God commanded and what respect for others required. And respect was what he showed the Black Americans he met. Watch.
If you have something based on merit, I don't care if it's all black, all Asian, all white. It's an excellent group is what I want, not a diverse group. I care about excellence, not diversity. Because I do not believe diversity is a strength. I believe unity is a strength. I believe the pursuit of higher purposes is a strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do understand where you're coming from. I feel like I do agree with some of the things that you did just say, and I may have to do some more research on the things that you said before, but I guess we can agree to disagree for the time being. Thank you for your time.
You. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Do you think people should be hired based on their race or their competency?
I don't think that. I think they should be race.
Which one?
My fault. I'm sorry. My fault. I think that they should be hired based on their competency, not their race.
We totally agree, right?
Okay.
So what DEI does in practice, not in theory, is it focuses on race more than competence. And
Okay.
that is our concern.
Okay.
And so what I want, and you seem, very passionate about a lot of things, and you obviously have skills. For your life, I want you always to be judged on the content of your character, not the color of your skin. Where DEI says, no, we're actually going to care more about skin color than competency. And so what we want is an America based on merit, America based on how hard you work, an America based on what you bring to the table, not just what you look like.
That's what Dominic's little girl is going to see on Charlie's YouTube feed. That's what was real and true and beautiful about Charlie Kirk.